The Gladstone Pottery Museum in Longton originally opened in 1787 by the Shelley family, who went on to employ Frederick Alfred Reed of the famous Reed family of potters, and closed in 1960, opening as a museum in 1974. Since then, since its opening, it was plagued by tales of deaths and due to industrial hazards. I have visited the museum twice and has never witnessed anything that I'm going to describe. Children in cloth caps play ring-a-ring-a roses have been seen in the courtyard. A bare-knuckle fighter near the kilns who shouts to anyone who gets too close. Whilst a lady in Victorian Victorian clothing who smells of lavender has been seen. Visitors often report strange smells of burning and feelings of their clothing being tugged from below. Heavy footsteps have been heard by staff and, on investigation, failing to find the cause. Poltergeist activity has been observed in the doctor's house, which arguably is the most active area of the site, where items have been witnessed to seemingly move all on their own accord. The Industrial Museum in Etruria first opened in the 1770s. The museum was later used as North Staffordshire's first public hospital from 1804 to 1869, and many people who visit there believe it to be haunted. Amongst the paranormal things people have experienced include hearing a woman cry, with echoes throughout the building. In 1998, there was also a report of someone seeing a ghostly barge. Ford Green Hall is a Grade II listed building dating back from the 1600s, making it the oldest building in the Potteries. Today it's a museum run by a charitable organisation, but the Ford family of farmers lived there for some 200 years. The property was later split into 3, then 4 separate cottages. A house cat can be seen running into the parlour. On searching, this cat is nowhere to be found, in spite of there being only one way in and one way out again. Other paranormal sightings at the 17th century property in Smallthorpe include a male with a silver-tipped cane standing at the top of the attic stairs. He wears a red cape and has his hands on his hips. Indeed, the staircase is the site of many sightings of shadowy figures. There's also reports of a beautiful young woman walking through the bedroom wall. Someone who worked at the site in the 1970s claimed that the activity was so regular she'd been accustomed to visitations by ghosts on an almost daily basis. One ghost even disrupted a daytime tour she was giving by chatting to a lady visitor who was the only person who could see the apparition. Worker Ian Watson said, "One evening I was working and the stairs are very creaky. I heard clumpy footsteps coming up the stairs, but when I went to investigate, there was no one there." Victoria Hall in Hanley was built in 1888 to commemorate Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee and is rumoured to be haunted. Prison cells were built in the basement, which served the integrated police station that used to be part of the building. The cells are now the actors' dressing rooms. Music has often been heard coming from the orchestra pit when it's dark and empty, and on many occasions staff and visitors have claimed to have seen figures sitting in the seats as if they were waiting for the show to start. One member of Victoria Hall's front staff said that she was prodded, whilst another was hit with a small object during the ghost hunt in 2019, and a message was spelled out to 2 members of staff on the Ouija board. Regent was originally built as a cinema in 1929. It has a seating capacity of 1,600 in the main auditorium and is one of the most beautiful buildings in the city. It also has a few ghosts. Many independent witnesses have seen a young girl in the auditorium, whilst the figure of a lonely man standing out of one of the balconies towards the stage is often mentioned too. There have also been numerous sightings of figures rushing through the corridors as if they are hurrying to get to the stage to make their entrances. At the Potteries shopping centre in Hanley, the ghost of an old man wearing a cloth cap and a walking stick is said to haunt the shopping centre. He has reportedly been seen by 2 members of staff on separate occasions. Staff are also said to have heard disembodied footsteps of someone crying out from the empty corridors. Street in Longton is a hotbed of paranormal activity, located just off the Uttoxeter Road in Longton. A narrow cobbled road holds 3 workers' cottages numbered 23, 25 and 27. There have been numerous reports of the smell of cigarette smoke, voices and even a ghost cat that has been sitting in front of one of the cottages at the listed buildings. Reports have heard people say that they felt as though they've stepped back in time and are being watched. One man, sounds like living in Indonesia, one man named Gary said, "I remember thinking that houses looked out of place and yet looked quite quaint. There was shouting coming from one. I didn't want to be too nosy, but the door of one of the houses was open and there was a woman sitting on the doorstep. She looked like she was in fancy dress, in a very old looking dress, with her hair tied up. She looked and smiled, and I smiled politely back and said hello. She replied hello. I presume she must have been doing some kind of play of the old days at the nearby Gladstone Pottery Museum. But after walking a few more steps and turning back to check on the woman, the frontages of the homes were all false and closed, with no lady in sight." TripAdvisor reviewer named Jade stayed at the North Stafford Hotel in 2019 and wrote, "Haunted. Me and a group of friends stayed over in rooms 217 and 218 and had a horrible night. Slept both hearing noises of a woman from the toilet and footsteps throughout the night. Creepy paintings and creepy sounds coming from the door outside the room." There is also a review by Laura M, who stayed in December 2014. "Me and my partner stayed here for one night. It was a completely sleepless night. Constant noises from the bathroom in the corner of the room. We heard clear woman's voice coming directly from the bathroom. My partner woke up a few times in the night and started to act very strange, but could not remember any of it. A tapping noise on the wardrobe and a slight knocking on the door was continuous all night. The tapping of feet walking across the floor from the bottom of the bed. Not at one point in the night did we feel safe. The creepy paintings do not help. So scary. Do not stay in room 301. King's Hall in Stoke is one of the most magnificent buildings in the area. A part of Stoke Town Hall, which was built in 1834. The King's Hall was added along with the Jubilee Hall in 1911. The hall has played host to many great events, such as the Beatles, who played there on January the 26th, 1963. However, over the past 60 years or so, many visitors have been left terrified after coming face to face with a young boy who asks for help and then disappears. Other strange occurrences include people hearing the sound of music. Not that there's anything strange with it, except that the music being heard is from years ago. In particular, people claim to hear music made popular at Wigan Casino in the 1970s. You'll excuse my little joke, as King's Hall is the venue for Northern Soul all-nighters, not least as it bears a remarkable similarity to the venue of my misspent youth. Equally, there have been similar occurrences of people hearing strange music from the 1960s in the Hoe Street area of Tunstall, home of the legendary Golden Torch. The town hall in Hanley is used to register marriages, births or deaths, but some of those recorded dead still haunt the building. The current structure in Albion Square, which was commissioned as a hotel, was built on the site of a previous residence known as Bank House, which dates back to the 18th century. It's believed that there were around 10 ghosts at the town hall, including a Victorian woman cleaning near the main staircase, a thin man rushing through the tiled corridors, and a newlywed couple who seemed to be continuously living their special day in one of the grand rooms. Many visitors say that they spotted the ghost of an ex-prison guard who wanders the corridors clanking his keys, whilst a very large and aggressive male ghost has also been spotted on numerous occasions, which may date back to when the building was used as a courtroom. City General Hospital, the old block containing the paediatric ward, was believed to be haunted by several children. One doctor running through the block after being bleeped saw several children playing in the area, and she later realised that the ward was closed and empty. The former Westcliffe Hospital in Shell was built in 1894 and also had been used as a workhouse. Over the years it's been a location where there seems to be a lot of paranormal activity. There's lots of stories of people seeing the spirits of former patients walking the corridors, poltergeist activity mocking nurses by banging on doors from empty rooms, and pieces of furniture such as beds moving by themselves. Because of the amount of the paranormal activity, some security guards refuse to work night shifts. The location has since been knocked down. Harecastle Tunnel, built by Thomas Telford, is where the Kids Cove boggart is said to lurk. You can only go through by boat, but lots of boaters have seen things. The Leopard Pub was one of Burslem's most popular pubs, and the most notoriously haunted place in the city. Sadly destroyed by fire in 2022, this was the historic meeting place of people such as Josiah Wedgwood, James Brindley and Arnold Bennett. The hotel was hardly touched for over 60 years, and experts say that paranormal activity there is off the charts. For years, locals have talked of a ghost of a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothing, standing in the stairs leading up to the hotel. Landlady Mary and following landlord James Norris are said to remain at their once proud establishment. James is particularly known to be uppity and likes to show off his position of power. People have reported violent encounters in the abandoned rooms of the Leopard. Unseen hands at their throat are said to hold them tightly against the wall. A bad spirit called Richard keeps the kids away. They're frightened of him. He was a doctor who helped people during the plague, but got stuck in the afterlife. Former landlady Sharon Crisp was a sceptic when she moved to the pub, but has seen numerous supernatural happenings. There have been sightings of shadowy figures, doors slamming, glasses thrown, and the last order's bell ringing on its own. One of the bar staff also reported hearing unseen children singing the nursery rhyme, Ring a Ring a Roses. The Reginald Mitchell Wetherspoon pub in Hanley used to be the old market that's haunted by a butcher. The old Weatherby's bookstore, now a betting shop, is haunted by lots of spirit. At Hanford's Bull's Head, a member of staff quaked after encountering a tall, dark stranger dressed in a long white robe. I understand this is another pub which has now unfortunately closed. The grave of Molly Leigh, the Witch of Burslem, is at St John's Church. Molly was born in 1685, and back then, long before the industrialisation of North Staffordshire, Burslem would have been an out-of-the-way village surrounded by woodland. Even as a baby, there were strange stories, such as Molly having the ability to eat crusts when she was just hours old, that she had a dark companion or familiar of a blackbird that would be seen with her at all times. There were accusations of Molly turning beer and milk sour using witchcraft. And Molly died at the age of 63 and was buried at Motherstown area of the churchyard. Locals report seeing Molly at her cottage after her death. The story says that a man named Parson Spencer stepped into her living room and saw Molly sitting by the fire, in an armchair by the fire. Spencer asked the clergy of New Chapel, Wolstanton and Stoke to help him. So her grave was reopened. A live blackbird was buried with her, and the grave was turned to face north to south. Legend has it that if you run around a grave 3 times on Halloween while chanting, "Molly Leigh, Molly Leigh, come chase me," and she is said to chase you from the churchyard. At Shelton Churchyard in 1886, a crowd gathered to watch a ghostly figure in white moving amongst the gravestones. A couple of braver members in the crowd lobbed stones at the ghost before grabbing the figure, who turned out to be a corporal in the Hanley Volunteers. The man was handed over to the police and issued a caution. Longton Park first opened to the public in July 1888. It's officially known as Queen's Park. People claim to have encountered spirits such as the Lady of the Lake, the jogger in the tree, the little boy on the old train line, and a distinguished but angry gentleman in fine clothes and wearing a top hat by the clock tower. In Cocknage Woods, phantom miners from the old Florence colliery and a metallic spacecraft are just some of the tales coming out of there. Trenton Estate attracts thousands of visitors every year, but it was previously the home of nuns, noblemen and army recruits. The site dates back as early as 1086 in the Domesday Book, with paranormal sightings recorded in the 1500s. The estate, including the former Trentham Hall, has been used as an Augustine priory, a convent and military training camp in the First World War, and a family home. There have been stories of ghosts of nuns, a phantom horse, a rider, and apparitions of marching soldiers. Now, I have visited Trenton Gardens many times, including having a graduation ceremony there. But once again, I was not aware of anything untold. Appledale Mining Museum is just outside the village of Chesterton, Newcastle-under-Lyme. Many people have suffered accidents and lost their lives. Apedale has stories of lost souls walking the long dark tunnels searching for a way home. The Beech Caves near Tittensaw are a beautiful natural formation which date back to 1633 and are steeped in the most bizarre and diverse history. Often the location of illegal raves in the 1990s and the location of numerous suicides and overdoses. Now, I was completely unaware of this because it's exactly the type of place I used to not only go to, but sometimes DJ at during the time. People report seeing shadows and a heavy sense of foreboding. There are other strange tales of cloaked phantoms that chase people from the foreboding caves, screaming as they leave. Strange voices of fleeting shadow people are mainly reported, along with a number of other strange tales of these cloaked phantoms. Anzio Army Camp is on a dark and remote landscape of the Staffordshire moorlands, has long held traditions which include a ghost or two. A headless horseman is one of the most popular tales, who's seen racing in the distance across the desolate landscape. Shadow beings have been reported to lurk in the old buildings, giving this constant feeling of being watched. There are many sightings of supernatural dogs in the area, centering around a big black dog called a boggart. Sightings of the spectral dogs are strongest on the moorlands of the Peak District, land that is occupied by the Anzio camp, and tales of the Kinder boggart terrify walkers. Others talk about the story of a mermaid who surfaces at night to comb her hair and drag anyone that gets too close to the watery grave. So popular is this myth that the local pub, the Mermaid Inn at Morwich, takes its name from the legend. Alternately, there are repeated sightings of a ghost in the pool. I'm sure that this refers to Blakemere Pond, where 3 friends on a vigil in November 2013 reported seeing a Jacobean-style carriage with no horses travelling at speed across. The experience lasted 5 minutes at its closest point. The coach passed 200 metres, the witnesses said. Witches were discovered by trial, by ordeal, a rope bound to their hands and feet with a hanging rope around the waist. Also, the torso had a knot a particular distance from it. If the knot and the accused both dipped beneath the surface of the water, the accused was proven innocent. The defendant was guilty if the knot was dry. This was the proof that the accused was in league with the devil. On one occasion, such a test led to a girl being drowned. The local legend of Blakemere Pond tells of a beautiful woman who rejected the advances of a young man named Joshua Linnett. Unable to accept the rejection, Joshua accused the woman of being a witch, and he managed to convince the local townsfolk to drown her in Blakemere Pond. With a final breath, however, the young woman is told to have muttered a curse against Joshua, and 3 days later his body was found in a pool, his face covered in claw marks. The last recorded sightings of the mermaid was in the mid-19th century, when a group of locals attempted to drain the lake to see if the pool was indeed bottomless as claimed. Shortly after, they began digging at the southern end of the pool, where a drainage ditch can be seen to this day. It's said that a mermaid appeared from the lake and threatened to flood the nearby towns of Leek and Leekfirth unless they ceased their activities immediately. On Ashbourne Road in Leek, a phantom coach can be heard. The gallows that once stood in Leek were dismantled and used as stiles in the surrounding countryside. John Naden was hanged just prior for murder, and his ghost now reportedly walks the surrounding area, seemingly emotionally attached to the pieces of wood used to hang him from.